hereby call this meeting of the May 12th Administration Committee meeting to order. We will begin with roll call. Tweed Schuman.
Here.
Ron Buckholz.
Present.
Dale Schluter.
Here.
Tom Duffy.
Here.
Ron Kinsley. Let the record show we have a quorum. This meeting has been publicly noticed to the news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes. All rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first meeting of the term, I will open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. Once the chair is elected, he will conduct the election for the vice chair if he so chooses. A person receiving a majority vote of members entitled to a seat shall be declared elected. This vote shall take place by a voice vote. If no majority is reached, balloting shall continue, including all nominees, until a majority is reached. So at this time, I open the floor for nominations for the position.
Madam Clerk, I nominate Mr. Schuman.
I thought administrative committee meeting was automatic, the chair and vice chair of the board.
We looked at the policies and did not see it specifically identified in there. We talked to Andy Phillips briefly on that.
That used to be the unwritten policy.
Unwritten policy. How would you like me to proceed?
Just carry on.
Okay, okay. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, can we call a vote for Mr. Schuman as chair? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Would you like to carry over the?
Oh, well, you're doing a very good job for vice chair.
Okay, we will open the floor for nominations of the vice chair. Do we have a nomination?
I nominate Ron Buckholz.
Do we have any other nominations for the position? Any other nominations? After hearing there are no nominations, we will open the floor for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, everyone. Okay, the meeting agenda has been presented. I did look at Pledge of Allegiance, but that is spelled correctly. It looks so odd, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
That's it.
Is that supposed to be an all committee meeting?
It's going to be starting in June.
That was a request, majority of supervisors, so. Okay, meeting agenda has been presented. We'll move on then to number 7, public comment. This time, members of the public will be given the opportunity to address the committee on items not on the agenda and at the time of that agenda item, if you wish. There's a form to be filled out here. Please adhere to the following when addressing the committee. Limited to 3 minutes, and comments should be directed to the entire committee as a whole and not directed to individual committee members. The committee cannot respond to your comments during this time. Please sign in and fill out a public comment sheet if you wish to speak on later. Yes, Ms. Selma, state your name and address, please.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Valleyville Lane, Birchwood, Edgewater property owner. 2 items that I'd like to address the administrative committee on this morning. One is to please place on a future agenda the code of ordinances, both as to the process that the county has used to compile the information, whether it's complete, whether the zoning ordinance would be included in that, and if so, how. But I do think that it's premature to move forward with adoption of it at this time, although I don't know if it was intended to be on your agenda for this month or May at county board. And the second item would be the ARPA fund priorities or criteria. In the previous committee, finance, there was a mixture of opinions as to whether there should or should not be priorities set for the use of ARPA funds. That is separate from what I'm talking about right now, in that I think there should be a criteria established for applicants So for instance, if an organization is coming to look for funds just because they couldn't do sufficient fundraising for the last 2 years or whatever, but they still have sufficient funds, that could help weigh your decision. Or is it a specific project that they're looking to request funds for, as opposed to just, well, we would like X number of dollars. So when you get to that discussion item, not just prioritization, but also establishing criteria that an applicant would have to present for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone online, Mike?
No.
No one else, then we'll move on to number 8, approval of our meeting minutes, April 14, 2022. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
I make a motion to approve them.
Okay. As presented, a motion by Mr. Duffy. Motion for a second. Okay, second by Mr. Kinsley to approve the meeting minutes of April 14, 2022 as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, Veteran Service Department report. Gary,
Hi, good morning.
good morning.
So for April, we had 340 phone calls, 225 letters, emails, and faxes, and 56 office visits. To date, 27 disability and pension claims received retroactive payment of $134,586.13. That were claims decided in the veterans' favor. Got training done in April, so I'm up to date. So it's got more coming up this year, but right now we're still good. It's kind of like rotating. It's how the stuff comes up. But anyway, other than that, that is all I really have to report. Unless you have questions.
Go ahead, Mr.
We're
Kinsley.
down in the new Oasis building.
I am.
Any comments from the veterans of being down there, building okay?
Comments on the construction, but that's going to end, when it's beautified. The hard finding it as far as the signage goes. I would like some signage if that's possible on my wish list, because right now it says Northwest Passage, Northwest Journey up there, and doesn't have, so anyway, that would be helpful. A stoplight would be helpful. I'm kidding about that. It's hard to get left turn to come to, otherwise it's a long time. It's crazy. I cannot believe how much traffic. So, and it's picking up for summertime. But the signage is something I think is quite legitimate. We got the stickers put on the door that helped. But I'm still chasing elderly around the parking lot on their car. So
Maybe we can get over to Tim.
yeah, I know they did the stickers, but I don't know. The signs are expensive.
We can do better than that.
So, yeah. So,
Enough room? You have enough room in there?
I am in there. I am in there. I've got one more. I got one more van load that I need to get out of the building. At least one more van. But so as it's going along, Tim, the guys are working pretty hard to put stuff up. But I need storage. I need storage to put this in. Otherwise, I'm gonna load it up in the other office I have, and it's gonna be full at that point. That's not where I want to be. So I need some storage a little bit. I don't need a lot to put some of my stuff in. And it's basically outreach extra junk. I just can't get down in there. Going up to the ceiling. Some stuff. So other than that, it's different. So leaving the building, I got a lot of lockout to do. So, but that'll change when we get neighbors in the building. So it's different. It's just different. Okay. So operating procedures for the van drivers, changed up a little bit. We're still kind of working through that. So yeah, that's it. I need signage. That's really what I need. I need some signage.
And we're on that, right, Mr. Kinsley?
So,
Is Tim and them on that? What about Memorial Day? What is planned?
coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not gonna. I usually don't go looking for that until next week, to be honest with you, because I'm sure it's gonna be the same. We're gonna, for Hayward, it'll be here at Shoes Pond, then over to the Greenwood Cemetery. And then I'm thinking LCO is gonna have their ceremony down at the memorial by the Kinnan School. Kinnan School. And then you've got the American Legion out of Winter that joins with Loretta Draper American Legion. And from there, they start at the north and they head southeast. So there's like 5 cemeteries. I hung out with them last year. This year, I got the hook to speak at the Greenwood Cemetery. So that's where I will be. I'm not going to be chasing everybody around. So I try to share it. You know, I don't want anybody thinking they're left out from the county. Great. So, but I will get that out. I will go looking for, you know, times and places that people are going to be in, to include LCO, what their schedule is, so I can push that out. Usually Scoop's on it, asking me already too.
Yeah.
But he hasn't done that. I'll get it next week. So.
Great. Anything else from the committee for Gary?
Yep.
Keep up the good work.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks for all you do, Gary. All right, moving on then to number 10, information technology. Mike, please.
Hey, good morning. So just a lot of help desk support and reconstruction work. We've got to remove some wires that are existing that will be demolished for construction running in the roof over there. We'll be running wires for Myron so they can have internet connection. Other than that, let's see. Oh, we finished up. We're just about done with Oasis for the ADRC when they move out there next month. So we've been real busy with that. Otherwise, nothing else unless there's questions.
Mike, is there much IT work at Oasis for these new people moving in there? Or are they all set up?
Nothing other than what you'd expect, just making sure they have the network connections and phones. So that's all in place. Maintenance and IT work together for the wiring. So it's the internet was already established there when they were doing the COVID shots and testing there. So there wasn't really anything too complicated that we had to do.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mike, looking at this pending project, sheriff video recording server, is that for their new video cameras that they will be wearing? Or is that something different?
That's something different.
Okay.
They're video cameras. The video is going to be stored in the cloud off-site. They'll be able to manage it themselves.
Oh, okay.
But this is for the jail video. The system is now 10 years old, and so it just needs to be replaced. This year, we're replacing the recording system. Next year is most of the cameras will be replaced. So it's an expensive project. Added up together, it's going to be almost $250,000 this year and maybe $200,000 next year. So it's very expensive. That financing.
Thank you.
Anything else for Mike? Good, Mr. Slater? Okay. All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate you or Alex being at all our meetings, too, sir. Okay, number 11, human resources report.
Good morning.
Rose, good morning.
So we have my report. We continue to recruit. Making some headway on our social workers. This is the first time in a long time we've been fully staffed with social workers in our youth justice area. So very good. Also, we interviewed for a social services aide position this week and we'll be making an offer today. So they will be actually fully staffed. Trying to get creative and look outside the box and attracting talent, working with people, maybe having different, for example, instead of having a jailer work in the control of the jail, maybe we can have it more of a, not clerical, but not a certified jailer position, until we have more of a jail pool that we can pull from. we're still struggling with our jailers, still struggling with our EMS. We have 4 open EMS positions. We've interviewed 2 and neither will come because our wage is so low. So we need to address that and fix that. There's several areas in our wages that need to be addressed. Working with Andy on a retention plan, if you will. Want to know?
Oh.
No? Okay. And that's about it. I see there was something about exit interviews up there. Is that we do exit interviews. Not all employees want to do them. And if I have trouble connecting with them, I have a form I can email them. I also now have put it out on a website. There is a place under the employee portion where they can do the exit interview, and they can do it anonymously if they want. They don't have to put their name on there. A lot of times when employees do the exit interviews, they don't want what they tell us repeated because, you know, they might be unhappy with this or that. So I always try to honor that because otherwise nobody's going to want to do an exit interview. And then the only other thing I included it on my report, but interestingly, there are now basically 2 open jobs per 1 available worker nationwide right now. We don't have enough workers to, even if everybody took a job, we don't have enough workers to fill almost 5 million jobs. So it's not just Sawyer County struggling to attract people.
Rose, I think I could have brought up this exit interview process because we had many positions, you know, under the same director. Seems like it was constantly changing over. So we just wanted to know, is it wage? Is it that they just can't do the workload or?
To be honest, it's a combination.
Okay.
Some people leave because, you know, maybe they're driving here from Rice Lake and they got a job down by Rice Lake, so they don't have to commute. Wage is a driving issue. When we changed our health insurance benefits in the HRA, we saw an uptick in people leaving. It upset them. It's really a lot of reasons. We had last year we had 11 retirements. So that's just people leaving, you know, aging out. Our workforce is aging.
Yeah. So you're going to bring us this retention plan later on, or?
Yeah, I've kicked around a number of different scenarios, possibilities as far as recruitment retention. For lack of a better word, I'll call it bonus for this year. Kind of just to point out something we guys just discussed. I think given current economic conditions, you know, if somebody is commuting in, and I think we have a number of employees that commute in, it's a tough market to move to because of the cost to relocate. And now with $4 plus gas, it's a hard market to commute in from. So considering those economic factors, and we're talking about some type of recruitment retention, payment bonus to, I guess, partly show the appreciation of the employees, but encourage them to stick with us. But also just looking at some of the overall wages there. I did part of what Rose does, so I understand. I've been familiarizing myself with the wage schedule, and yeah, like she pointed out, there's definitely some positions that we're very uncompetitive in, and I wouldn't expect we'll be able to fill those positions unless we bring our wages up in a couple of areas. Specifically, we're just not seeing any applications for it. So yeah, the intent is to bring something back in June. So it's a little bit proposed to the committee. But
Sure.
Right, because we need to retain the talent we have, as well as try to attract new.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So, but you're having trouble, obviously the sheriff's department's having trouble with jailers, right? You said.
Yes, and dispatch,
And
as well as
Yes.
across the board.
again, part, like she said, it's a mix. Part is wages, but I think to the credit of the discussions, it's also maybe looking at taking a different approach to make the positions attractive.
Sure. And was it that we were hopefully gonna lower the jail population with a second courtroom and more effective, efficient proceedings where they can look at more diversion programs versus incarceration. Do you see that affecting the jail population or these jailer positions? Or is it too early to tell?
I would think it's too early to tell. I mean, you know, the bottom line is if it gets to it, we're already housing out, I think 20 inmates. And if it gets to where we can't get our staffing up, we're gonna have to house out more. So we're either gonna pay it in housing or we're gonna hire.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I know when it comes up at our public safety, it's, it's jailers and dispatch. And they always report that they do have people that do the shadow, job shadow, and it's something that they don't want to do. So it's just hard for them to get help.
They're very difficult jobs.
They are.
You have a comment, Mr. Duffy?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
More money.
Yes.
How far off are we off? And how much more would it take, percentage wise,
In the jail or across the board,
across the board?
it's a large number.
That's a very large number.
It's-
Might as well.
It would be probably around 600,000.
Are we competitive with other counties? How about West County? Are we?
Can't we use our surplus?
Well, that's part of the proposal we'll bring to you, is do some of it. It's not, I can't make a general statement across the board because there are some positions we are competitive in. There are some we're not. I know when I did wage comparisons, I knew which jobs I would pull from Sawyer County, that Sawyer County was lower in. We raised up some of those positions down there. So it's, I think we've identified the kind of the priorities today. But that where we're having difficulty, and if we don't address them, you're going to see it's gonna we'll get hit at the overtime costs or just lack of people to provide the services that we need to address.
Mr. Kinsley.
Are we reviewing the salaries? What are we doing? Who's doing this?
We are. Rose's put together a number of scenarios to address this.
Recommendations?
Mr. Kinsley.
Rose, when the exit interviews, I don't know how many you have, and that's okay. But is there anything like in the future meetings that you could share with us that maybe a printout or something? This seems to be some of the issues that people are leaving.
Sure.
Something similar to that.
Mhm.
So that if there's something that we're not aware of that way, enlighten us a little bit.
That's a great point, Ron.
So full disclosure, I guess I told Rose I wanted to bring this in and bring it up today and see if you guys were doing this or doing this. Before we move ahead with it further.
I think we're with you.
Yep.
We'd like to hear it.
And
See,
another option is, for an example, in the jail, we have a large turnover in our jailers, and every time we have to train, it's incredibly expensive to train them. So maybe instead of having part-time people, we look at increasing the number of full-time jailers. That way, we're giving people benefits, because when they're part-time, they don't get a benefit. So as soon as a full-time opening happens in a neighboring county, they go. So it might be something worth looking at, because I don't even know how much we spend on training, but it's a lot. And it taxes the staff. I mean, to constantly training us.
It only makes sense to put them on full time if we can keep them.
Yep.
where are we housing all these people and why is their jail so empty?
They built bigger jails. I think most of ours are in Bear. Yep. And there's a couple counties. I know Burnett houses there. Some of them overflow in Bear, and so do we. So when they build over capacity to budgeted in revenue.
And they have staff, obviously.
They're top end of the
Yeah.
compensation schedule.
Because of that extra revenue stream.
They're gonna lose part of it because Burnett County, I think, has a 30-person jail now, and they're building a 99 capacity jail this summer. Because of how much they're spending on out-of-county housing. And I think we're housing out, in part because we need to, but also because we don't have enough staff to go to full capacity.
Right, we can't double bunk because we don't have staff. So instead of double bunking, we're housing.
How are we doing with trying to reduce the jail population with alternate sentencing? Is that a pretty active group or?
It exists. I can't tell you how effective it is yet. I think the TAD grant planning process that's going on now to create a alternative court is one way to try to reduce the incarcerations. Yeah, I think the second court room plays into that. I mean, it's, the jail population is a systematic discussion from prevention and treatment alternatives for individuals, so they aren't incarcerated. I don't remember the percentage, but the majority of our people are in jail because of drugs.
And a lot of these diversion programs or alternatives to incarceration have to be court ordered or by the judge. So it's my understanding that the second court will make that more efficient. We would get through these cases, offer alternatives or diversion without them sitting so long pre-sentence. Because a lot of our people are filling the jail with pre-sentence, not even sentenced yet, and waiting for a court date
Yes.
because we're so backed up.
So backed up.
That's why I bring that up.
Probation, paroles.
Yeah.
Until they can get processed. And then some of it's depending on the judge too, how the judge wants to dispose of these cases.
That's a big one right there.
You're not gonna tell him how to do that.
Okay, anything else for Rose on the HR? Good report, Rose. We'll definitely keep you on it. All right, number 12. One we've been waiting for. ARPA fund priorities. I know Mr. Duffy has a lot to say about this, and Mr. Kinsley. So where do we want to start with the ARPA fund priority update? And Mike, why don't you jump in? There's 1.5 million left, correct?
Yes.
Or unobligated,
Unobligated.
and we got until the end of 24 to spend it.
Obligated. You have to
Obligated.
decide by 24 where it's going. Has to be out the door by the end of 26.
Got it.
Part of
And-
your 1 there's 1.5 that's unobligated. You have some that are contingent upon people getting broadband rights.
The broadband, right. And okay, and because of the final rule, there's a lot less requirements to spend it, correct?
Right, you can treat it all as
Lost revenue, you
lost
said?
revenue, and just said lost revenue is providing government services to use it for. Due to the revenue loss by the pandemic.
You want to start this?
Andy.
Andy?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. I don't know that I have real great suggestions on how to go through our prioritization process. Part of it boils down to the will of the board and how they want to pursue it. I'll just point out the same things I did last meeting. We just talked about the timeline. I did mention this last meeting, but I talked to one of the grant recipients, one of the broadband providers from the fall allocation, because they were asking about how to get their funds because they did receive the grant and the project's moving ahead. But they mentioned that they're anticipating that there's going to be another round of Public Service Commission broadband grants this fall with additional ARPA funds that are there. Keep that in mind because we funded some other broadband providers previously. If I were to suggest prioritizing, to me, it's if you can find places to leverage other dollars. That's a good way to increase the value of the ARPA funds. If there's, I brought up the infrastructure money last meeting. If we can, as a county, pursue the infrastructure dollars that are to be competitive. Use the ARPAs as match funds that would leverage other operations, other dollars. But beyond that, I think it's a discussion we heard at the finance committee. It's the philosophy of open it up for public organizations, other entities to request funds, or keep it more internal to the county, whether it be for the gap on the building project or other items that we know are coming down the road, like matching funds for the airport projects or potentially the retention recruitment incentive. That would, if we bring that to you next month, that includes a number of essential workers who could use ARPA funds for that. Or those other county capital projects that could come down there, and you could allocate it towards those. So it's more of a philosophical discussion, and I guess just let you know, there came to be another request for ARPA funds that came in yesterday from the town of Draper. So I mean, these are the types of things that are gonna start filtering in. Leave the door open.
So I think I heard during finance, at least 3 supervisors mentioned they kind of want to use that money for the gap in the construction project. Is that
Yep.
true?
Mhm.
Mr. Kinsley?
But I also want to keep my eyes open and see what else is coming. I mean, I'm not gonna say nobody else got a shot at. I want to know what's coming, but I'm reserving for the building project until you show me something better. So if I can ask, what's Draper looking for? I mean, we offered them broadband and they turned us down.
This is $40,000 to go towards a helipad. They have fundraised $21,685. But the construction costs have gone up $257,250. So they're requesting $40,000 ARPA to help complete that project.
So I'll ask it again. What is the gap in the construction project?
2.1.
2.1. Okay.
Now, the townships are getting ARPA funds also. Do we have any idea where they're spending their money? I mean, nice to see, is there a trend or people are all over the place?
The only ones I know of, there have been some that have put towards those broadband projects as well. Beyond that, I don't know.
That's, I'm like a town board chair at town of Meadowbrook. That's where ours went to, was broadband.
Anyone with any questions? I mean, it's on the agenda, so
Well,
it's open to action, it's open to discussion. Mr. Buckles.
like I say it, what I said in a finance committee meeting that using what we have left to do the building project, like I say, it benefits the taxpayers. And it closes the door for all these people that are throwing their hands in like they got today. What other better place isn't to use it? To cut back the deficit on the gap for the county here.
Is that, Mike, is the 2.1 gap, is that a conservative number? Does it include the contingency that costs could be some overruns?
Yeah, it's a pretty solid number. I mean, the project would still go over budget, and you'd have to find a way to cover that, but it's a solid number.
So if we do use the 1.5 for the gap, where does the other 600,000?
Take it out of fund balance, or you already approved yourself being able to borrow for it. You've actually approved yourself to be able to borrow up to that 2.1. Right.
Pleasure of the board, Mr. Schleter.
Where is the closest? To
They don't have one up there, except for the last time they landed at the school, the winter school. They've been building this helipad for a gentleman passed away. He used to work for Sawyer County 20 years ago. It's a church-run fund that they're using to build it. And they're, like everybody, they're trying to, they've had feeds, spaghetti feed and stuff to help raise money for it. And they probably had a few things that I don't know about, raise money for it.
do we have any kind of an estimate of how much the usage that how the which would be a bean counter business? It's a figure we should know.
Well, I think we can talk to Nate and see if he's got any input there.
See, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
when we were doing the Ojibwa ambulance, they applied for a helipad there. We turned it down because we were told if in an emergency, they can land right on the highway there on 27 to do emergency pickups to whatever on a rendezvous point. So, you know, it's just a matter of in Draper and Loretta, I don't know where that would be enough to compensate for that.
Just as a point of order, I wouldn't debate the helipad too much. This
No,
one is not on the
no,
agenda.
but I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Okay, thank
We're
you,
caution.
thank you. Now, Mr. Kinsley, yes.
But I'll throw in too, Cool Ray's looking at putting in a helipad. I mean, we're gonna fund that.
Mr. Schler, you had brought up that you would like the full county board as a whole address priorities and decide on ARPA money. Does admin want to bring something to the full county board?
That's not what I said.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, this group setting priorities, or any group setting priorities. The entire county board, every request we get, consider it and then make decisions.
Mr. Duffy?
I think if you open it up to all those who want to make a request for money, you're gonna have a deluge of requests, and we'll never have an agreement. How do you pick? And they're all good causes. I guess the question is, where do you spend your money on? And there's no doubt that they are, if you put it on the courthouse project, all the people will benefit. No doubt about that. Those that want to buy ambulances and whatever will feel disappointed, but I think if we open up the request for whoever wants money, get a hold of Andy here and stand in line, we've got to be an endless project. How do you pick one good cause against another good cause?
That's our job. We have to make a decision.
Well, it's impossible, but you can make a decision, yeah. But I guess when you go back and argue that if you put it on the new structure, the debt, all the residents benefit.
Oh, Sawyer County.
Yeah. I just hope we can put a moratorium on it until we decide what to do.
Well, I'm hearing that if there is a motion that we were to use all of the remaining unobligated ARPA funds for the gap in the construction cost, that would pretty much be your moratorium on any further requests.
Yeah,
And I don't know how the committee feels about that. That's just kind of what I'm hearing. Mr. Kinsley?
Well, if I heard correctly, Andy had some ideas earlier, not this meeting, but before, that you might bring us some ideas. And I think maybe that would be a good idea to let Andy bring some ideas to us before we have to make a decision. And we have nothing pressing that we have to make a decision today. So why not let him bring that stuff forward and we'll take a look at it.
I can do that. I think I can do two things, bring you some ideas. I can dig into more details, so give you an idea of how it's being used in other places too.
how much money do we have left?
Approximately 1.5.
So we could also think about doing this, at least take 1 million of it and put towards construction and keep the other 500,000 for these other requests, or do something like that. There's no reason why we have to put it all in one pot.
So then
But I don't know that anyone's an objective, put some of it on that debt.
So we'll put this on June's agenda then, and Andy will bring us some ideas and thoughts, and we'll address it then. Are you okay with that?
So we might address it every month going forward until they're gone too.
Sure.
Potential's there.
Okay. Anyone else on ARPA funds? All right, great. Is that enough time for you to put that together then, on the June meeting? Okay, thank you. All right, number 13, county administrators report.
All right,
Mr. Andy.
so the agenda went out, I didn't really think I had much to report yet. But going through some committee meetings since then, I've found things to update you on. So Mike's got it on the screen, we can upload it to the packet. So just to give you an idea of what I've been doing here for the first few weeks, I've made it around and visit with almost every department head, elected official. I think the only person I haven't met yet is the coroner. So I'll do that at some point, but just getting a feel for what's happening in the departments and what some of the priorities are. Some of those, Muni Code, Lynn and I have had multiple conversations about picking that project back up and getting it not wrapped up, but just with Tom's retirement as well as Rebecca leaving the law firm. I think some things, trying to verify that we have the most current ordinances, and then kind of reviewing it to see if there's any gaps in it, because I think the ordinances have come in that were existing, but there might be some things that the county wants to consider having in there that aren't in there now.
Andy, would the zoning ordinances be included in that unit code?
What's been discussed is putting them into an appendix. Just kind of talking more with Andy at the Corporation Council. I think they need to be in there, whether they're in the appendix. But they're an ordinance. They're an ordinance that applies to the public. Should have everything in one spot.
Yeah.
I think it may not be renumbered to go along with the rest of the code, but at least if they're in there as an appendix and they're updated, I think that's just good policy, good practice. Likewise, the thing I've talked about, and it's kind of merging two things here. We had the need to review the county board's policies and procedures in regards to the election of the chair and vice chair. We got to just an opinion on that, and I can get to that a little bit later. But reviewing the county board policies and procedures, one, we need to make some changes to it so it's consistent with state statute based on the recommendation of the council. Also, we need to develop it more because, just as one example, we have 8 standing committees and only 3 are outlined in the policies that has definition of their duties and responsibilities. We should really round that out. And then the counties where I've worked, but also where I've looked into to identify policies, usually the board policies, you're established under a home rule per statute. Your board policy procedures are your home rule. To me, and I've talked to Corp Council about this, I think that should be in the ordinance book as well as an ordinance. Usually counties call it chapter 2, that's your home rule. Zoning policies, procedures for the committee should be in the ordinance book as well. That's my opinion. I've talked to council, they agree. So that's why we're taking a bit larger look at the community code and making sure everything's in there. I think we could wrap up what's already been done and get that adopted, but if we do that, you're still gonna need to make updates to it. I haven't talked to Lynn. I'm sure we have a contract community code that allows us so many updates a year, or we should. So that when we submit the changes to them, they update the written policies as well as what's on the website. So getting into the details in that project, Corp Council work, kind of coming in, that's one of the things I heard about. I've talked to staff about is the situation with Corp Council and kind of monitoring the things they're working on. There are a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire right now. So we're doing our best to manage it, and I understand why there's kind of the cost the county's been incurring. So I think they're doing their best to wrap some things up from us, but there are some irons in the fire, and some of those irons are fairly hot. So continuing on, working with them, and just managing the work that they're doing on behalf of for the time being. Discuss board policies and procedures, and then I talked about my conversations with HR regarding getting up to speed on the compensation schedule and identifying areas that need attention to address any recruitment retention issues we have, and bringing a proposal in June. Courthouse renovation, I've been involved with the bi-weekly meetings with Venture Architects and Myron and the rest of the county staff here to keep things on the timeline and get communications out. We have just an example, I mentioned this last night, Public Works reviewed a couple potential change orders or alternates to the project. One being switching from James Hardy for the exterior siding to LP. Seemed like a good idea to consider it since LP is a local product. And as it turns out, the warranty's as good, if not better than James Hardy. They have a stock color that matches closely to the current exterior, and the swap results in a cost savings. So talking about those things, we're getting some information back on the generator issue. Use the current generator that has enough capacity and no hours rather than adding a second generator. So doing those things as well as coordinating the construction activities. So sure got the email that construction activities are going to start on Monday. Primarily for the first 3 days, they'll be mobilizing equipment and materials, and putting fencing up probably Wednesday or Thursday. And then we start to see things pick up from there. And then the groundbreaking ceremony on the 19th at 5:30 before the county board meeting. Opioid settlement, did we talk about that here or was that last week?
That was last week.
Thank you. So 726, 277s, the current estimate for what the county is going to get. We'll get an updated number within 30 to 60 days. At this point, it's still going to be paid out over a number of years, probably up to 18 is the current anticipated schedule. There is work looking at to monetize that for all, on behalf of all the counties could buy in, or participate, and essentially sell off your settlement and take a lesser amount, but get it in bulk up front. So we'll be getting more information on that as we'll discuss the ARPA funds. It's kind of a nutshell, as well as spending a lot of time with Mike on his retirement and learning all I can about the financials of the county and the finance system. It's been a fire hose for a few weeks here.
Wow.
What Mike's replacement? Have we got one yet? or-
Yep, we got one. He's been here a couple times to work with Mike and learn the system, and then his start date is July 1.
Has he been announced? The name been announced yet or?
He at this point, his name's Mike. I'll tell you that. I don't know if he's communicated anything additional to.
Last time I talked to him a week ago, he was still a little hold off. I'm not sure why, but
What do you mean, hold up?
he doesn't
I
want
thought
to.
he's accepted.
He has.
There's more to it than
He just doesn't want it public yet.
Oh, I see. Because he's still employed somewhere else. Maybe.
He is, but I was a little uncomfortable, so I looked, and it looks like I found where he's resigned. I notified them, and it's indicated he's
Okay.
sold his house and bought a house, so I feel comfortable that he'll be here on July 1.
Andy, are you comfortable with this transition so far? How many times has he met with you?
He's been here 2.5 days. I wish we could do more, but I have, talking with Andy, auditors are going to be here first week of June. I'm going to come back for 2 or 3 days to help with that process. And then I said when Mike gets here in July, I'd come back a few days. It's up to Mike and Andy at that time.
Yeah, I would feel comfortable if he was able to spend more time on Mike's retirement. But I guess the time I sat in on their discussions, I felt comfortable that he knew.
Yeah, that was kind of a high level budget, overall budget. And both Mike and Andy were very comfortable with the conversation. They understood. They're very familiar. Even the school district setting, even though it's a different set of rules, the overall process is very similar.
Okay, great. Anything else for Andy?
I'm glad you're here.
I'm impressed.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Number 14, future agenda items. Yes, sir.
Back to the public comment section. I still don't think it's says what we really intended to say. Due to the public opportunity to address the committee on items not on the agenda. Period. It doesn't say anything more what they can address on or can't address on. It doesn't give any indication that they will be allowed to speak during discussion of an agenda item. Doesn't talk think about this. Talk on anything that is not on the agenda for 3 minutes. That's the way we want to leave it. That's fine, but we have to adhere to that.
Yeah,
None of this, I'll give you your 3 minutes later because that's not allowed by that policy.
you see that, Lynn? And when I read that too, I thought,
Yeah, when I first started, Bruce Paulson was involved in the wording of that, and I thought we had Rebecca review it, but I don't know, Andy, you would be willing to look at that?
I can look into it, yeah.
yeah,
Well, if this is the way we want it to read, then we're good. But I'm just pointing out that it's not the way we want it to read.
Put it into the next
so
one.
Andy, could you, that's a future agenda item, okay, Lynn? Please
Got
have Andy bring back our public comment language and policy, okay?
You bet.
Thank you. All right, anything else, future agenda items, Ron? Either Ron?
Rose is gonna bring us stuff about exit interviews and we're gonna talk about.
Yep.
We're bringing ARPA back, obviously, like Andy's. Mr. Duffy?
Some of the people who leave, are they complaining about our administration? Is that a problem with any department without mentioning names?
I wouldn't say there's been a, like, one particular issue.
Okay.
Could you try?
Did we miss anything, Mike? Actually, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Keith.
In the first week, you're gonna go lower.
Sleep in.
Any other matters for discussion only?
Thank you, Mr. Keith, for everything you do for us.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it.
Amen. How many years have you been?
6, a little over 6. I came, so Tom came, I think, in May of 2015. I came in November.
Great man. Perfect. Okay, anything else? Anyone? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
What is?